They thought it was just an ordinary family portrait, until detectives noticed a mysterious hand that didn't belong to anyone in the picture. And what they uncovered led to a hidden crime, buried for over 25 years. October 14, 1998. Rain fell softly over the small town of Briar Glen, Vermont, coating the empty streets in silver reflections. The town was quiet, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names and front doors were rarely locked. Nothing serious ever happened there. No murders, no kidnappings, no mysteries. That changed the morning the Harper family disappeared. At exactly 7:42 a.m., Nancy Collins, the Harpers' next door neighbor, noticed something unusual while walking her dog. The Harper family's front door stood slightly open, moving gently with the wind. Their porch light was still on even though the sun had already risen. Nancy frowned. Eleanor Harper was always careful. She never left doors open. At first, Nancy assumed the family had simply rushed out early. But then she noticed the family car still sitting in the driveway. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. She slowly walked to the front porch and knocked on the door. "Eleanor," she called softly. "Thomas." No answer. The door creaked open wider when she touched it. Inside, the house was silent. Too silent. Nancy stepped into the hallway carefully. The smell of fresh coffee still floated through the air. Somewhere deeper in the house, a clock ticked steadily. Tick, tick, tick. "Hello," she called again. Still nothing. The kitchen looked normal at first glance, but small details immediately felt wrong. 4 breakfast plates sat on the dining table. Half-eaten toast rested beside a bowl of cereal that had turned soggy. A mug of coffee sat near Thomas Harper's chair, still half full. It looked as if the family had suddenly stopped eating in the middle of breakfast. Nancy quickly called the police. Within 20 minutes, officers arrived at the Harper home on Willow Street. Detective Aaron Pike stepped through the front door just after 8:30 a.m. He was a tall man in his early 40s with tired eyes and a calm voice. Pike had spent years solving difficult cases in larger cities before moving to Briar Glen for quieter work. But the moment he entered the Harper house, he knew something was terribly wrong. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no blood, no evidence of a struggle. Upstairs, all 3 children's bedrooms looked untouched. 16-year-old Sophie's school books remained open on her desk. Daniel's sneakers sat neatly beside his bed. In little Lucy's room, stuffed animals were arranged carefully beneath the window. But the beds told another story. Every blanket had been thrown aside quickly, as if the family had gotten up in a hurry during the night. Pike continued searching the house until he reached the living room. That was where he saw the portrait. A large framed family photograph hung crookedly above the fireplace. At first, it looked completely ordinary. Thomas Harper stood behind his wife Eleanor, with his hands resting on her shoulders. Sophie smiled brightly beside them, while Daniel crossed his arms awkwardly, like most teenage boys. In front sat little Lucy, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest. The family appeared happy, normal, but Detective Pike couldn't stop staring at Lucy's left hand. Something looked strange. He stepped closer. Lucy's tiny fingers were curled tightly around something invisible. Beneath them appeared another hand. Larger, pale, almost transparent. Pike narrowed his eyes. At first, he assumed it was a trick of light or damaged film. But the longer he stared, the more unsettling it became. The second hand clearly did not belong to anyone in the picture. "Get me a magnifier," Pike said quietly. One of the officers handed him a small forensic lens. Pike examined the image carefully. His face slowly tightened. The mysterious hand had unusually long fingers. Thin, bony, almost unnatural. And there was something else. A faint shadow near Lucy's shoulder. It looked almost like part of a person standing behind her, but only partially visible. "Who took this photo?" Pike asked. Nancy Collins, still shaken, answered from the doorway. "A photographer from town. Just 3 weeks ago. Eleanor said she wanted updated family portraits before Christmas." Pike removed the photograph carefully from the wall. On the back, written in black ink, were simple words: "The Harper family, September 1998, nothing else." For the next several hours, investigators searched every inch of the property. Police dogs followed scent trails into the woods behind the house, but suddenly lost them near a narrow dirt path. It was as if the family had simply vanished. Then another strange discovery was made. In Lucy Harper's bedroom, officers found dozens of crayon drawings hidden behind her dresser. Most showed the same two figures over and over again. A tall man without a face, and beside him stood a pale little boy with very long fingers. Some drawings showed the boy standing beside the Harper family. Others showed him outside Lucy's bedroom window at night. At the bottom of one picture, written in shaky, childish handwriting, were 6 chilling words. "He says Daddy did something bad." The room fell silent. Detective Pike stared at the sentence for a long moment before carefully placing the drawing into an evidence bag. Outside, rain continued falling over Willow Street, but inside the Harper house, something far darker had begun. And Detective Aaron Pike had the terrible feeling that the family portrait hanging above the fireplace was not just a photograph. It was a warning. The second photograph arrived at the Briar Glen Police Department 2 days after the Harper family disappeared. It came in a plain brown envelope with no stamp and no return address. A young officer discovered it sitting on the front desk early that morning. Detective Aaron Pike immediately recognized the Harper family the moment he pulled the photograph from the envelope. But this picture was different. Very different. Unlike the smiling family portrait found inside the Harper home, this image looked darker, colder, almost unsettling. The Harpers stood in the same backyard behind their house. But Thomas Harper had been scratched violently out of the picture. Deep marks tore across his face and chest until nothing remained but jagged lines. And standing behind little Lucy Harper was a boy nobody recognized. Detective Pike stared at the image in silence. The child looked about 8 years old. His skin was pale, almost gray. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. His thin lips stretched into a strange smile that didn't look natural. But the most disturbing detail was his hands. Long fingers, abnormally long, exactly like the hand hidden beneath Lucy's in the original family portrait. Pike immediately sent the photo for analysis. While waiting for results, he returned to the Harper house with a forensic team. News of the strange photograph had already spread across town, and reporters crowded outside the police barricades. People whispered about ghosts, curses, haunted photographs. But Pike believed there had to be a logical explanation. Inside the house, officers continued searching for clues. In Thomas Harper's office upstairs, Pike discovered several old cardboard boxes hidden beneath a desk. Most contained ordinary papers and school documents. But one box was different. Inside were newspaper clippings from the early 1970s. Every article mentioned the same place, Blackthorn Academy. Pike carefully unfolded one yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, "BORD&GSCH roll FCSABUSEACUCTIONS." The article described complaints made by former students against staff members at the academy. Children claimed they were locked in dark rooms for punishment. Some reported beatings. Others described hearing screams coming from the basement late at night. Then Pike noticed another article beneath it. IACG's 2D REMAAN's USOLVD. The story focused on a 7-year-old boy named Elliot Voss, who disappeared from Blackthorn Academy in 1972. According to reports, the child vanished during the night and was never seen again. Pike's eyes narrowed. Attached to the article was an old class photograph from the academy. And there, standing in the front row, was Elliot Voss. The detective felt a chill crawl down his spine. The boy's fingers were unusually long, exactly like the child in the mysterious photograph. Later that evening, Pike visited Martha Green, a retired teacher who once worked near Blackthorn Academy before it shut down. The elderly woman lived alone in a small farmhouse outside town. When Pike showed her the photograph of Elliot, her hands began trembling. "I remember him," she whispered. "Quiet little boy, always carried books everywhere." "What happened to him?" Pike asked. Martha looked toward the dark window nervously before answering. "People said he ran away," she said softly. But nobody really believed it.
"Why not?"
The old woman hesitated. "Because strange things happened at that school," she finally admitted. Children disappeared from classrooms. Some came back terrified. Others never came back at all. Pike leaned forward. "Did you know Thomas Harper?" Her expression changed instantly. "Yes," she whispered. "He worked there briefly before becoming a teacher." "Did he know Elliot?" Martha slowly nodded. "He was one of the last people seen with him." Back at the police station, Pike received another unsettling update. Forensic experts had enhanced the mysterious family photograph. Hidden in the reflection of the Harper house window was the shadowy outline of a tall adult figure, watching the family from inside the house. The figure appeared to be holding a camera. But according to Eleanor Harper's sister, nobody else had been present during the photo session. The case was becoming stranger by the hour. That night, another disturbing event shook Briar Glen. A local journalist named Sophia Bennett arrived at the police station carrying a tape recorder. She claimed someone had been following her while investigating the Harper disappearance. "I found something connected to Blackthorn Academy," she told Pike nervously. "Someone doesn't want this story uncovered." Before Pike could ask more questions, Sophia handed him a small notebook. Inside were names of former Blackthorn employees. Thomas Harper's name was circled in red ink. So was another name. Sophia whispered, "Samuel Voss." Pike recognized the last name immediately. "Elliot's brother." Sophia nodded slowly. "Is still alive." Before Pike could respond, the station lights flickered briefly. Then the phone rang. One of the officers answered, and his face turned pale. A child's voice whispered through the receiver, "You missed him." The line went dead. Silence filled the station. That same night, Sophia Bennett vanished. Police found her car abandoned near Blackwood Forest, with the driver's door hanging open. Her tape recorder still sat on the passenger seat. Detective Pike listened carefully to the final recording. At first, only rain and static could be heard. Then Sophia spoke softly. "There's someone outside my car." A long silence followed. Then came the sound of slow footsteps circling the vehicle. Sophia's breathing became shaky. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He's just standing there." More silence. Then a child's voice laughed softly in the darkness. Sophia suddenly screamed, "Your hands!" The recording ended abruptly. No trace of Sophia Bennett was ever found. And for the first time since the investigation began, Detective Aaron Pike realized the Harper family disappearance was connected to something much larger and far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Rain poured heavily over Briar Glen the night Detective Aaron Pike decided to search Blackwood Forest. Sophia Bennett's disappearance had shaken the entire town. Parents refused to let their children outside after sunset. Shops closed early. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some people believed a serial killer was hiding in the woods. Others whispered about ghosts connected to Blackthorn Academy. But Pike believed someone real was behind everything, and he was determined to find them. Inside his office, the detective studied Lucy Harper's crayon drawings one more time. Most looked like ordinary children's sketches, but one detail continued bothering him. In nearly every drawing, a small red building appeared hidden among trees. Pike had seen that building before. After comparing old maps of Blackwood Forest, he finally identified it. An abandoned hunting lodge nearly 10 miles outside town. The lodge had once belonged to Blackthorn Academy decades earlier. Old records showed the school used it for winter trips and private staff meetings, before it mysteriously shut down. Now it sat empty deep inside the forest. Or at least, that's what people believed. By midnight, Pike and 4 officers drove through heavy rain toward Blackwood Forest. Their headlights barely cut through the thick fog wrapping around the trees. The deeper they traveled into the woods, the quieter everything became. No animals, no wind. Only the sound of rain hitting the police vehicles. Finally, the old hunting lodge appeared between the trees. The building looked rotten and abandoned. Broken windows covered the front wall. Part of the roof had collapsed years earlier. Moss crawled across the wood like dark veins. But Detective Pike noticed something immediately. Fresh tire tracks. Someone had been there recently. The officers stepped inside carefully with flashlights raised. The air smelled damp and moldy. Dust covered the floorboards. Old furniture lay overturned across the rooms. Then one officer froze. Detective Pike turned. A candle sat burning on a nearby table. Fresh wax dripped slowly down the sides. Someone was inside the lodge. The team searched room by room. At first, everything seemed abandoned. But small details told a different story. Half-empty food cans. Fresh footprints. A child's stuffed toy sitting on a staircase. And then they found the photographs. Hundreds of them. The walls of the main room were covered from floor to ceiling with family portraits. Different families. Different years. Different towns. Some photos looked decades old while others appeared recent. But every single image shared one terrifying detail. The father's face had been scratched out. Deep cuts tore across every male figure until only the mothers and children remained untouched. One officer whispered nervously, "What kind of person does this?" Pike didn't answer. His attention had moved toward a narrow hallway at the back of the lodge. At the end stood a locked basement door. The detective slowly reached for the handle. It opened with a loud creak. A freezing gust of air rushed upward from the darkness below. The officers exchanged nervous looks before following Pike downstairs. Their flashlights revealed a hidden underground chamber beneath the lodge. The room looked impossible. Children's drawings covered the walls. Small metal beds lined the corners like an old dormitory. Broken toys lay scattered across the concrete floor. And painted repeatedly across the walls in black letters were the same chilling words, H-E-2-ook, again and again, over and over. H-Toke-TM. One officer nearly stumbled backward when he noticed dozens of old videotapes stacked inside wooden crates near the wall. Each tape had a handwritten label, names, dates, years stretching back more than 3 decades. Pike grabbed one tape labeled BLFETHRN 1972, who nearby sat an old television and VHS player connected by dusty wires. After several attempts, the machine flickered to life. Static filled the screen. Then grainy footage appeared. The camera showed the inside of Blackthorn Academy long ago. Children walked silently through hallways while teachers watched them closely. Then the footage changed. The camera shook violently as if the person filming was running. Suddenly, a young boy appeared on screen. Elliot Voss. He looked terrified. "Police. the child cried. "Don't let him take me downstairs." The video suddenly cut to black. Silence filled the basement. Even the officers looked shaken. Pike inserted another tape. This one showed a younger Thomas Harper arguing with several Academy staff members inside a basement hallway. The recording had no sound, but the fear on Thomas's face was obvious. Then something horrifying happened. Little Elliot appeared near the staircase. Someone pushed forward during the struggle. The child lost balance and fell backward down the stairs. The screen went black again. One officer whispered softly, "Oh my God." Detective Pike finally understood. Elliot Voss had never disappeared. He had died inside Blackthorn Academy, and someone had spent decades hiding the truth. But before Pike could process the discovery, footsteps echoed above them. Heavy footsteps. The officers spun around instantly. Someone was upstairs. Pike rushed up the basement stairs with his flashlight raised. The front door of the lodge slammed violently in the wind. Outside, through the rain and darkness, Pike spotted a tall, thin figure standing near the trees. The man wore a long black coat and stared directly at the lodge. Even from a distance, Pike could see his pale face and his unnaturally long fingers. "Stop!" Pike shouted. The figure turned calmly and disappeared into the forest. The officers chased after him, but the woods swallowed him completely. When Pike returned to the basement, one final discovery waited for him. Hidden behind loose bricks in the wall was a small notebook. Lucy Harper's notebook. Inside were pages filled with childish handwriting. Most entries described the smiling boy who visited her at night. But one sentence made Pike's blood run cold. He says his brother is still looking for them. Beneath the sentence, Lucy had drawn a picture of a tall man standing in the woods. And under the drawing, she wrote a name for the first time. Samuel Voss. The storm over Briar Glen grew worse the night Detective Aaron Pike returned to Blackthorn Academy. Thunder rolled across the mountains while police vehicles pushed slowly through the muddy road leading toward the abandoned school. Rain hammered against the windows so hard, it sounded like stones hitting the glass. Inside the lead vehicle, Pike stared silently at Lucy Harper's notebook resting on his lap. One sentence kept repeating in his mind. His brother is still looking for them. Samuel Voss. For nearly 30 years, Elliot Voss's older brother had vanished without a trace. Now Detective Pike finally understood why. Samuel had never stopped searching for answers, and somehow, his search had led directly to the Harper family. As the academy appeared through the fog, several officers exchanged uneasy looks. Even abandoned, the building felt wrong. The massive stone structure towered above the trees like a prison forgotten by time. Broken windows stared into the darkness like empty eyes. Pike stepped out of the vehicle slowly. The cold air smelled of wet earth and decaying wood. "Stay sharp," he warned the officers. "We don't know how many people are inside." The front doors of the academy hung partially open. That immediately worried Pike. Someone had entered recently. The officers moved carefully through the dark hallways with flashlights raised. Dust floated through the air. Old lockers lined the walls. Torn school papers still covered the floor from decades earlier. But then Pike noticed fresh footprints in the dust. Small footprints. Children's footprints. One officer whispered nervously, "They've been here recently." Suddenly, faint music echoed somewhere deep inside the building. A soft lullaby. The sound froze everyone in place. It was quiet at first, almost impossible to hear beneath the storm. But slowly the melody became clearer. A child's lullaby. Pike followed the sound through the hallway toward the lower-level staircase. The deeper they descended underground, the colder the air became. Finally, they reached the academy basement, the same basement shown in the videotapes. The same basement where Elliot Voss died. The lullaby suddenly stopped. Silence. Then Pike noticed light beneath a steel door at the far end of the hallway. He approached carefully, gun raised. The heavy door creaked open slowly, and there they were, the Harper family. Eleanor Harper sat trembling in the corner with little Lucy wrapped tightly in her arms. Sophie and Daniel looked terrified and exhausted. Thomas Harper sat against the wall with his hands tied loosely in front of him. All alive. Relief swept through the officers instantly, but then Pike saw the man standing beside them, tall, thin, gray-haired. Samuel Voss. The old man didn't run. He didn't panic. He simply stood there quietly holding an old black and white photograph in his pale hands. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Rain pounded above the building while the officers aimed their weapons cautiously. Then Samuel finally looked at Pike. "You found us," he said calmly. "Step away from the family," Pike ordered. Samuel slowly obeyed, but something about him seemed strange. He didn't look angry or violent. He looked tired, almost broken. Eleanor Harper burst into tears the moment officers untied the family. Sophie clung tightly to her mother, while Daniel stared silently at Samuel with fear in his eyes. But little Lucy remained focused on the old man, almost as if she knew him. Pike kept his eyes locked on Samuel. "You kidnapped them." Samuel lowered his head slowly. "Yes." "Why?" The old man looked toward Thomas Harper. "Because he murdered my brother." Silence filled the underground room. Thomas Harper's face turned pale. Pike stepped closer. "Tell me everything." Samuel sat down heavily in a nearby chair before speaking. "For decades," he explained, he searched for the truth about Elliot's disappearance. Everyone at Blackthorn Academy claimed the boy had run away, but Samuel never believed them. Then years later, anonymous documents began arriving in the mail. Old reports, photographs, witness statements, evidence proving Elliot died inside the academy. And every trail eventually led to one man, Thomas Harper. "I watched him build a perfect life," Samuel whispered bitterly. "A wife, children, a home. While my brother was buried like garbage." Thomas suddenly broke down crying. "It was an accident," he whispered weakly. Samuel's eyes filled with rage. "You left him there." Thomas covered his face with shaking hands. "I was 19, he cried. "The academy forced me to stay quiet. They threatened me. They said my life would be destroyed." "You still said nothing," Samuel replied coldly. Detective Pike listened carefully as the truth finally surfaced. Back in 1972, Thomas Harper worked briefly as a student assistant at Blackthorn Academy. During an argument in the basement hallway, Elliot tried escaping after witnessing abuse inside the school. Thomas attempted to stop him. The two struggled near the staircase. Elliot fell backward. The boy died instantly, terrified of scandal. Academy officials secretly buried the body beneath school property and forced everyone involved into silence. Thomas carried the guilt for the rest of his life, but Samuel wasn't finished speaking. "There's more," he whispered. Pike frowned. "What do you mean?" Samuel slowly turned toward Lucy. The little girl stared back silently. She knew things nobody told her. Samuel said nervously, "Things only Elliot would know." Pike felt a chill crawl through his body. Samuel explained how he secretly contacted Lucy months earlier by leaving notes near the Harper house. He wanted the child to question her father. But soon Lucy began saying impossible things. Specific memories from Elliot's final moments. Private details hidden from everyone. Words Elliot spoke before dying. Samuel's voice trembled slightly. "She talked about my brother like she knew him." The underground room suddenly felt colder. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. Once, twice, and went completely dark. Children screamed instantly. Somewhere deep inside the basement, Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Slow, heavy, coming closer. Officers switched on flashlights rapidly, beams cutting through the darkness. But the hallway outside remained empty. Then Lucy whispered softly into the silence. "Hayes here." Darkness swallowed the underground hallway beneath Blackthorn Academy. The emergency lights flickered weakly overhead, casting deep red shadows across the cracked walls. Rain thundered outside while terrified voices echoed through the basement. Detective Aaron Pike tightened his grip on his flashlight. "Everyone stay together," he shouted. Officers quickly surrounded the Harper family while scanning the hallway ahead, but the footsteps continued somewhere beyond the darkness. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Little Lucy Harper clung tightly to her mother's hand. Her face had turned pale, but she did not look surprised, almost as if she had been expecting this moment. "He came back," she whispered softly. Pike looked down at her. "Who came back, Lucy?" The little girl stared toward the black hallway. "The boy." A cold silence filled the room. Samuel Voss suddenly stood from his chair, breathing heavily. For the first time since police found him, genuine fear appeared in his eyes. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible." Then the footsteps stopped completely. The silence that followed felt worse. One officer slowly moved into the hallway with his flashlight raised. The beam swept across peeling walls, broken pipes, and flooded concrete floors. Nothing. But then came another sound. A child laughing, soft, distant, somewhere deeper underground. The officer froze instantly. "Detective," he whispered nervously. Pike stepped beside him. At the far end of the hallway stood a small figure, a child. The boy wore old-fashioned dark clothing, soaked as if he had walked through rain. His face remained hidden in shadow, but one detail was clearly visible: his unnaturally long fingers. The officers raised their weapons immediately. "Don't move," Pike shouted. The child tilted his head slowly. Then the basement lights exploded. Glass shattered overhead as darkness swallowed the hallway once again. Panic erupted instantly. Several officers stumbled backward while others shouted into their radios. The Harper children screamed. Somewhere nearby, metal doors slammed violently on their own, and through the chaos, Detective Pike heard running footsteps, fast. Not a child this time, an adult. "Samuel!" Pike yelled. The old man had disappeared. Pike rushed through the dark hallway, following the sound of footsteps deeper into the academy basement. His flashlight beam bounced wildly across the walls as water dripped from the ceiling above. Then he reached the old staircase from the videotape, the exact place where